The Beatles. I mean, these guys are the next big thing. Despite their insane influence on music and culture, I've never actually listened to a Beatles album in full. I obviously know the hits, but Abbey Road and Revolver and the White Album, I mean, these are recognized as some of the best albums in the game, man. So I'm going to be spending the next month or so diving into each Beatles album. I'm going to listen to their albums in chronological order, and I'm going to take you along on the journey. I'll listen to a couple albums here, a couple albums there, and in between these listening sessions, I'll sit down here and I'll give you guys my thoughts. I'll listen to their first three, okay? We'll go with first three, and I'll let you guys know what's it all about. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so I listened to the first three Beatles albums. We got Please Please Me, With the Beatles, and A Hard Day's Night. And I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't think there's anything really too remotely special about these albums or unique in any type of way. I wasn't expecting to be too mind blown from this band yet, you know, because it's only their first couple albums, you know. These albums do show that the guys have a lot of potential, you know. I think these guys are onto something. They're gonna be pretty big. Just watch. All three of these albums gonna have the same sort of like style to them, I guess, where it's just kind of just the classic 60s music, you know. Like, I don't really want to say surfer rock because it's not really, I don't think it's exactly surfer rock, but kind of the same type of vibe, you know. These albums are easy to get through, very quick, 30-minute long albums. They're all really catchy tracks. They're all really fun to listen to. These albums also do a good job of showcasing like the harmonies and the melodies that these guys are capable of creating. Something that I don't think will go away in the near future in their discography. I do want to give a shout out to Hard Day's Night. Hard Day's Night, out of these three albums, I feel like does have the most variation within the tracks. It's got the most creativity within the compositions. A couple deep cuts off of, deep cuts if you could even call them that, off of Hard Day's Night was I Should Have Known Better, but Anytime at All, that was also a really fun track. I'm going to be listening to the next three albums, so I'm very excited to see if there's any variation or if we're still sticking to the same formula, but I will update you guys in a couple of days. We're all going to die. I listened to Beatles for Sale, and I listened to Help. I need somebody help. Things are starting to get a little bit more interesting here in the Beatles sphere, you know. These four dudes from the UK, they got a lot of potential, you know, and they're really showing it. They're kind of growing away from the 60s jangle pop slop stuff, and you know, it's less like, you know, oh, I'm strumming my guitar and I'm singing about love, and it's more like, you know, more thought out, more methodical. I will say, out of the two, Beatles for Sale is my personal favorite. Help was obviously good, but I feel like Beatles for Sale was a bit more consistent in my opinion in terms of songs that I enjoyed that I want to keep coming back to. No Reply is really fucking good. I'm a Loser is really good. Mr. Moonlight is incredible. Every Little Thing might be one of my new favorite Beatles songs, actually. Same with No Reply. I also feel like they're like lyrically they're kind of being a little bit more mature with their songwriting. And the first three albums is all about like love and oh my god, she loves me and I love her, but maybe she doesn't love me, but I still love her. But you know, these songs are a little bit more interesting, even if they are, you know, still about love. They kind of are a bit more interesting. You know, No Reply, for example, off of Beatles for Sale. That's technically, you know, still a song about love and heartbreak, but it has a bit more of an interesting story, in my opinion, than some of the other songs. I'm gonna be checking out Rubber Soul and Revolver next. Very excited for these next two. I heard that Rubber Soul's when the drugs start kicking in, so we'll see about that. Things are getting real, dude. So I've been listening to Rubber Soul and I've been listening to Revolver. Both these records, huge steps up from the last one. Rubber Soul immediately was a complete vibe shift from Help. I think I'm gonna say out of the two, Revolver and Rubber Soul, I think I like Rubber Soul more. So I'm gonna start off with Revolver. I listened to the 2022 mix, okay, because I tried listening to the 2009 remix of Eleanor Rigby with headphones on, and it was fucking awful. And speaking of Eleanor Rigby, let me just say real quick, listening to the song again in the context of how it lies in their discography was really shocking. I can't imagine what it must have felt like to listen to the song back in 1966 for the first time. You got these guys who've been making these jangly pop songs the entire time. Now they're kind of getting a little more psychedelic with it. And then they got these fucking strings, beautiful string arrangements happening all over the song. Like, this is a peak song, dude. Like, listening to all the different like violins and stuff that are happening in it. it. Incredible stuff. It's actually, I would probably say, a 10 out of 10 song. Followed up by I'm Only Sleeping has got to be, that's my favorite, like, deep cut, if you will, off of this album, I'd say. I will say, Yellow Submarine, I used to like that one as a kid. Listening to it now, it's pretty underwhelming. Low-key, one of the weaker songs on the album. Two things with these records, with Rubber Soul and Revolver, that we're seeing is that we're seeing that they're getting more diverse with their lyrics, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word. They're more so talking about different subjects of different things rather than, you know, just talk about love the entire time. Taxman, for example, is an easy giveaway here. They're talking about taxes, man. 1 for you and 19 for me, man. Abolish the IRS, man. There's just a lot of interesting stuff happening here. They got like some guitars going on. Definitely a lot of psychedelic vibes, and it's a great record. However, I do believe that, in my opinion, Rubber Soul just kind of resonates with me a little bit more. They kind of take the classic jangly pop Beatles sound. It's more bright, more vibrant. Honestly, I'm not one for, you know, taking psychedelics these days, but this album makes me want to take shrooms and listen to it, you know. I want to experience this album on so many different drugs that I won't remember my name afterwards. The production and the mixing in it just feels so floaty and incredible. Some great tracks on here that are like kind of like some deep cuts that I weren't expecting to find. Drive My Car, You Won't See Me is fantastic. Makes me want to frolic down a fucking open field. The way like the background vocals are going with the Beatles all going, ooh, la 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 la, ooh, la la la. Think for Yourself has some great lyrics in there. The Word is a super groovy track. Girl is a fantastic track as well. Wait is also a fantastic song as well. Yeah, Rubber Soul is just kind of just full of good vibes, man. It's kind of hard to throw this on and not want to be in a good mood. That's why I think I resonate with this a lot more than Revolver. I'm very excited to check out Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This is like the one, right? Like people fuck with this one a lot. But I'm also going to be listening to Magical Mystery Tour. Penny Lane. Alright, I listened to Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And I also checked out The Magical Mystery Tour. Both those albums really show that the drugs have fully set in, you know. They're not holding back any punches, going full psychedelic mode, really experimenting with a bunch of different sounds and lyrical concepts. And it's very fun to listen to. I will say I did like Sgt. Pepper's a little bit more than Magical Mystery Tour. Sgt. Pepper's just felt a little bit more put together, a little bit more consistent. Magical Mystery Tour really felt, not that I'd say that they kind of went a little bit overboard, but I do feel like they went just a little bit overboard. Kind of definitely went pretty experimental on some of these tracks, but actually, you know, after my third listen to it, I actually started to get like really warmed up to it actually. Blue Jay Way, for example, was a track that I thought that I wasn't a big fan of on my first listen, but now after listening to it more, I'm actually finding it a bit more enjoyable. I take back what I just said actually. Magical Mystery Tour actually has a lot of bangers all over it. Your Mother Should Know, I Am the Walrus, obviously that's a fantastic song. Really interesting recording techniques it seems, you know, it's like, it sounds like there's like some samples or some like tape loops or something going on in the background. Strawberry Fields Forever, that one's a fan favorite, everyone likes that one. Penny Lane, that's probably one of my favorites. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is just filled with bangers left and right. Like even tracks I already knew, like obviously like Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and stuff like that, with a little help from my friends, which has been stuck in my head for like 2 days straight. Love that song. Always puts me in a good mood. The amount of variety in the instrumentals on this album is incredible. Really every single song on this album is completely unique from each other, but also still having this kind of cohesion and concept and sound, I feel like, despite the fact that it's kind of all over the place. Like you really do not know what the next song's gonna sound like when you're listening to this thing for the first time. I want to point out something in She's Leaving Home. First off, the storytelling and the lyrical concept in that album is really good. Dude, you got these beautiful strings, and there's the point in this track where the mom and dad find out that the daughter left. The strings, there's like this tonal shift in the strings that add a little bit more tension to the song. Gorgeous stuff. When I'm 64, oh man, what a gorgeous sounding song. This honestly is a really solid album. I will say, I think I could do without Within You Without You. The last time I listened to this album, I had to skip it because I really can't get into that track. But other than that, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is a fantastic album. I really am excited to dive into the next album, which is the White Album, the longest Beatles album. It is a double album, an hour and a half long, and I'm very excited. All right. Whoa. So I listened to the White Album quite a few times here. It took me a little bit of time to get into. The first listen, I wasn't really fully with it, but now after a few more listens, I enjoyed it a little bit more. I do think that this album kind of has a little bit of a quality control problem for an album that is so long. It's a double album. There's let's see here, 30 tracks on this record, and I feel like there are a lot of tracks on here that could have been like cut, and it would have been a better record for it. I mean, a lot of these tracks that do show like the quirky side of the Beatles. You know, they're having some fun in the studio here, even though I feel like this album was made like during like the time where they're like breaking up and having like a lot of like inner issues with the band. They do have a lot of fun moments in this album, but a lot of those fun moments I feel like kind of bring the album down a little bit. For example, like Piggies. I don't know why the fuck that song's on here. Why Don't We Do It in the Road? I really want to know who the horny bastard was that wrote that song, because that song does not need to be in here. The second disc on the album too drags on a little bit. I also don't really think Revolution 9 needs to be on here. I mean, it is a cool, innovative track for the time. You know, it's interesting, but it doesn't really need to be in there. But despite that, there is like an incredible amount of tracks on here. The first 4 tracks is a great start to the album, good 4-track run there. Another one that was a huge highlight for me that I've never heard before, a little bit of a deep cut here, a little Beatles deep cut, Rocky Raccoon. That's probably one of my favorite tracks that I've heard from the Beatles after going through their discography here. I love the storytelling. The melody in that track is so beautiful as well. The shift into like the saloon piano type vibe that they got going on there is really good. I think Julia is a beautiful way to close out the first disc here, and then Birthday is an awful way to start off the second disc. Revolution 1 is also one that I want to highlight here. As my roommate described to me today, actually, as we were listening to it, he said it's like a bunch of hippies smoking a pot in a circle talking about revolution. That's what the song's vibe is, and I can't do a better job at explaining it than that, so there you go. I'm actually kind of sad that I'm getting towards the end of my Beatles journey. I only got really 2 more albums. I just got Abbey Road and Let It Be. It's over. It's over, man. Abbey Road, Let It Be, the last 2 albums in the Beatles discography. I want to quickly mention that I also watched the Yellow Submarine movie. That was a super cool experience. I enjoyed the animation style and the trippy visuals. But let's get into the music, baby. Abbey Road. Holy crap, man. What an incredible album here. Really just a fantastic crop of tracks here. Really putting in their full effort here to get one last push of an album out before they, you know, their inevitable demise. Honestly, I've got no issue with any of the tracks on this album. From front to back, it's really stacked. They're kind of going into this like more like kind of, I guess, like psych rock type vibe. You know, not fully experimental like they were with like Sgt. Pepper's or Magical Mystery Tour. They're kind of toning back the experimentation on that end, but they're making up for it with like these really just amazing instrumentals here, with just some nice rock and guitars and amazing bass lines, and, you know, drumming from Ringo. Shout out Ringo and Octopus's Garden, by the way. That's a fantastic track. So that's a favorite of mine. The entire medley from at the end of the album here is a huge highlight. From You Never Give Me Your Money to the end, you know, the whole back half of the album is kind of like this one big track that kind of just like flows. Each track flows into the next, basically. You Never Give Me Your Money, by the way, is fantastic song. When it comes back again on Carry That Weight, where they kind of bring back the musical motif with the horns, oh my god, man, every single time I hear that I get chills, dude. It's so good. It's such a great way to tie in the whole medley together. Another highlight that I would say is a favorite that I didn't know about is Maxwell's Silver Hammer. I got no fucking problems with any of the songs on this record. I can see why a lot of people will say that this is their favorite Beatles record. Let It Be is also an incredible album. I will say, first listen, I felt like it was a pretty mediocre end to the Beatles discography, but after giving it some more listens and some more thought, I do believe that this album is you know, it's good. It's good. A lot of great tracks in here. It's very short, very condensed. That means that it's not very bloated at all, and that each song of the album really does deserve its spot there. Although I will say there's a couple that I'm not the biggest fan of, like One After 909 could do without. But, you know, tracks like Two of Us and I Me Mine and Let It Be, Across the Universe, and I Got a Feeling, these are all incredible songs that really wrap up the Beatles discography really well. And there you go. That's the end of my Beatles journey. Man, was it a fun one. It was really cool seeing this band progress and how they reshaped their sound throughout their albums. I can see why people call this their favorite band of all time. Honestly, they've made their way to one of my favorite bands of all time. Check out the Twitch streams. We do a whole lot of fun stuff on the Twitch stream, so go check it out.